Previously on the Frontier Farmer. It has reached full height now, so yeah, we can get on with mowing this. But here are our oats which we drilled, and they have germinated, so we will have to come back and spray them today. But first job, because there's rain on the forecast, is getting that field mowed. You might recall that I was talking about getting a mower that can lay the grass into a nice swath, and I think I've found just the thing. The haybine has mown the grass field and left it all in a nice swath. And then we should be making our swath, yep, into nice hay. There we go, first bale pushing out. And we can go and spike our first bale and get them loaded up. Started raining and been caught out. They can try and stay dry under here. Rather wet, muck spreading job. We can get this all drilled in the wet. The rain has subsided. And then hopefully we'll have a nice secondary fertilised oat field. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Frontier Farmer at the Dark Forest. Starting out by our field number 4 today, and it's nice to see that our sorghum has started to grow. But you'll also notice we've got some pesky weeds in there, but they're only small weeds, so we can deal with them with our manual weeding hoe. We're not going to be using the sprayer. But yep, that is something that we're going to have to do today. But before we do, Tim has spotted something quite interesting behind his shack, and yeah, I've not noticed it when we were working around that area cutting down the trees and when we found this rather strange fenced off area, but it obviously gave us some indication there was some life around here. But what Tim has found is particularly interesting. Now what he's found was quite hard to spot. In fact, I might have missed it again. No, I've found it. Here it is. So lurking in the bushes was this John Deere AMT 600. Now it's looking a little bit worse for wear. There's quite a few large scratches on it and it's a bit dirty, but to be honest, for finding something randomly in the forest, it's looking pretty alright. And I've had a little inspect and it needs a good service and a little fuel top up. But yeah, we're going to have a little tweak, see if we can get it started, and this could join the homestead. Well, it's turning over, but we're not getting anywhere just yet with the engine firing into life. So let's get the spanner out and give it a few tweaks, and hopefully we might be able to get it started. Definitely was a bit of a limp over here, but it's made it. So let's get it properly serviced, some oil changed, and see if we can get it running a bit smoother. There we go. Cost us about 600 in parts, but it is in a good condition now, so let's just back up and see if we can refuel, and then that's us pretty much operational with this new little AMT. I think this is going to be quite handy around the homestead. Right, I need to be a bit closer. There we go, we're topped up. So let's have a little look at how it handles. It's sort of a three-wheeler, but it's got double back wheels, so that's quite cool. Yeah, I'm hoping we can just head on over to the silo, watch out for the chickens, get them some grain and dispatch it into the chicken pen. Get some wheat in there. Look out, girls. And hopefully we can deposit in here quite easily. Fantastic. Right, I think they might take this all because they We're running a little bit low. That is perfect. Right, look out, girls. Out of the way. The horn still works. That's good. So, we've acquired a nice little tool to accompany our wheelbarrow for carting some larger capacities of things. So I think we'll just park this up here and it'll be quite a good little run around the animal farm. There we go. What a nice addition to the homestead. And although Tim found it, it's sort of co-owned because we've put a little bit of money into fixing it up and the parts, and I guess it was discovered on our homestead land. Quite happy for Tim to use it, and good news is he has finally forgiven me for spraying his larder car with lime. We're going to jump in the farm wall and get the weeder so we can get to weeding the sorghum field. And the farm wall is the perfect machine for running our weeder. And we want to deal with those weeds nice and early so they don't have a chance to take root and then impact the yield. Looks like Barkamus is roaming around the garden quite nicely and freely. So once we've got the sorghum field all weeded, I think we're going to turn our attention to field number 3, where our grass is ready to harvest, but it's not at the highest height. But because we're now in May, we're reaching one of the last opportunities to drill some crops, so I kind of want to get that mowed. We have got plenty of grass and hay, so I'm not looking for it to be the maximum yield. And yeah, if we mow that, we're still going to get enough bales out of it. So I'm going to mow it to make hay, and then we can look to drill it with a new crop. But I'm also going to look to see about putting in some form of hay storage, because we have got a lot of bales of hay, and it would be nice if we didn't have loads of random bales floating about. So somewhere to store them quite nicely would be convenient. But we are weeding this field, so I'm going to carry this on. Luckily we're not damaging the crop because it's only in the earliest growth stage. So I'm going to see to this, and once we're all done, we can get on to the next job. And this is the last little main slither that we have, and we can lift up. I think it's fair to say, as I've been going around, I've noticed that this hoe is not 100% in terms of weed removal. I have driven over some weeds and it's not taking them out. So either the weeds are very sturdy, bruiser weeds, or the hoe is just not got 100% rate of taking out weeds. But I'm going to take a little look at the map and see how well we've fared. And I might have to come with some sort of spot sprayer to get rid of the sturdy weeds. So despite going pretty good coverage across the field, there are patches where weeds are still present. So I might have to get a spot sprayer of sorts to deal with them, because that is not ideal. And yeah, potentially it might have to be spraying from here on out. Perhaps the hoe is not as effective as I thought, but never mind, we've done that job. We can always come back and spray weeds if we need to. But at least we've done and dealt with the majority of the weeds. And there's probably, let's say, between 5 and 10% of the weeds left in there. But that's not too shabby at all. So we'll save us a bit of herbicide. And we can park up the weeder where we found it. And move on to the next job, which is going to be assembling and installing a place for us to store our hay bales. We've got the hay bales under the sawmill because we had to seek some rain cover last time. So I'm hoping to get them out and place them somewhere suitable to store them. And I'm thinking we need somewhere to store them near the animal farm because, yeah, that's the main consumer of hay. So I'm thinking right ahead in front of me, just between the animal farm and the silo, is where we can place a hay storage building. And I think to store it we are going to have to remove this tree, so I will cut this down, hopefully not landing in the field. Perfect. Clear the stump away. And just like the good old days, I've gone and got the winch on the back of the farm wall. This is how we cleared the logs in the early days of the homestead. So we can get that attached there and drag it away to the storage yard. There we go. This really is reliving the old days of the homestead. And we can deposit it in our wood storage yard. To give it a little shunt backwards. And there we go. And we're back. And now the space is cleared, we can place our hay storage building. And here it is, our hay loft or hay storage building. And we can deposit hay, whether it be loose or bales, into this section here. And that is going to pipe it up into the loft, which is quite nice. And then there's a conveyor here which we can fetch hay from. It also stores straw, which is pretty good. And yeah, I think we can probably take a little look up here. Here we go. Now, this is just all obviously loose straw that's in here. We haven't stored anything in there yet. And then we've got a couple of little bits of covered shed area here. I might cut this tree down as well, where we will see. And yeah, there's a chance that we could run a little track through to our bakery yard here. So yes, quite a nice addition, and it leaves a good enough space between the silo and here so we can drive through, which is pretty good. But that means the next job is going to fetch some of our hay bales and storing them. So I'll park up the farm wall and go and get the skid steer with the bales. Right, here's where we left the bales, and of course we brought the grass bales under here as well. We can't store the grass bales in the new hayloft, but we can find a space in a shed for them. So I think the next job is jumping in the skid steer, getting these hay bales over there and loaded, and then getting the grass bales under cover somewhere as well. So I think I'm going to see to that, get myself busy, and I'll see you when we're all finished. Let's pick these up first. And there we go. Had to get a little bit innovative there just to neaten up the stack. But we have got them all loaded in there. That's the grass bales in the shed. And all the hay bales have been stored in the new hay loft, which is pretty good. Now, one thing that's slightly a limitation is the fact that this bale trailer has got a cage lip around the bottom. It does make it quite difficult to pick up the stack of bales from the bottom, but yeah, we managed to do okay considering. Alright, so we can stash this bale trailer away, and I've put the roster mash that was in the shed, the cultivator, over there because we are going to take that to be sold. So I think what I'll do is I'll just do a little pivot round and put this trailer next to the other one. In fact, I might put it up against the fence of the horse paddock, because then that is out of the way and not going to be blocking anything. There we go. And skid steer parked away. So grass bales in there and hay bales nicely stored in our hay shed. So we've got 43,898 litres of hay. I think we can store straw in here as well, so might try putting some straw from the dovecote in here at a later stage, or when we harvest our oats in Burfield, maybe we'll put the straw in here just for storage. Right, we might come and collect some hay later on to just give to some of our animals. But for the next job, we're going to turn our attention to this grass field, and yep, we are going to mow it. It is saying that we're going to get a good yield rate, but it is definitely not the fullest growth height. But as mentioned, May is probably the last opportunity for us to get another crop in the ground, so I really want to turn this field over. And if we look at the crop calendar, today is the last day that we could drill corn or soybeans or sorghum, and I think I'm going to go for another sorghum field just so we have got a good amount of chicken and horse feed. So we'll have 2 sorghum fields. But yeah, we need to hop in the International and get the hay bine. Ah, the International is here, nicely washed, and it's looking pretty good on the service indicator, so that is good enough for me. The hay bine, which we used to mow field number 4 before we put the sorghum in there, did a good job. Oh, we got the hay bob in the way. We'll have to move that. In fact, I can probably attach that to the front, and then I'll drop that over by the farm wall, because I'm probably going to use the farm wall with the hay bob once again to make hay. There we go. So we have got hay bob and hay bine attached. And then the hay bine is going to help us mow the grass like we did previously and lay it all into a nice swath. We can then come along and ted it with the hay bob, which the farmer will do kindly for us. So yeah, we can leave that there. This time, rather than baling our hay, I think we are just going to use the forage wagon and deposit it loose into our hay loft, which is going to work hopefully quite well. Right, this field is a little bit different to the one we mowed previously because there's not a lot of edge space. So I think I am indeed going to just have to drive through the grass that I do mow for the headland. And then what we will do is we will come along and change it to the angle so I can then cut it properly without driving on it. So I think we want to lower that. There we go. And yes, we are depositing our grass, which is good. And we can do it at a reasonable pace as well, which is pretty handy. We've got a little bit of hay remnants from when we last cut this field. I think it was at the tail end of last year. There we go. We have got a bit more space up here, but not much point me moving it now because the other side of the field has got woodlands as well. So I'm going to zip round here, get all this grass mowed, and then we can come along with the hay bob. See you soon. Power down. We have the last bit, so we can fold back in. And that was pretty good going, if you ask me. Make sure that's central, and then we should be able to pull it straight. Fantastic. So yeah, we did the headland driving through the grass, but then we tilted the haybine to the side so we could then mow it without damaging. And that worked pretty well, although that's an oddly shaped field, so I had a couple of mid sections which turned out a little bit funky. That's okay, adds a bit of character to the way we mow and to the field. Right, let's get this parked up, and then it's hay bob time. So we can park up here and swap over to the farmall. Do love using the old farmall. And one thing before I forget is, because we are driving in swath, I'm going to swap the front wheels for the not the tricycle, but the two wheels at the front that leave a gap. There we go. So with the two wheels at the front with a gap, it's now got the ability to run through the swath, whereas the tricycle, in my opinion, looks better. I think it suits the tractor more nicely, but it is probably not the most practical thing to have when driving through a swath with the hay bob. And we've got a nice handy number plate on the tractor now as well. Frontier. Right, so hay bob attached. We are ready to rock and roll. We can start spinning and lower away. And as mentioned, we are not going to be driving through the swath. Well, not if I can keep straight, but there we go. The new front wheels are now navigating the swath better. Superb. Right, we'll turn this all into hay, and then we can grab the forage wagon. I think we'll use the International to run that, because we haven't used it with that yet. End of the line, so we can raise up and turn off our hay bob. It's done a fantastic job making all these swaths of grass into hay. Fantastic. Right, let's spin around and we can park up. Somewhere here will do nicely. Leave the farmall in there for now as well. Right, next we want the forage wagon, and we normally have to have a drawbar to run it properly, but we'll see how this connects up without it. Okay, that seems to connect up a lot better than the farmall did, so that is good news. So the plan is we can set this in motion, lower the pickup, and all the hay we collect can go straight into our hay loft. So let's get collecting and get it all stored up. There we go, last row collected. That's worked pretty well. It is slow running this machine, but nonetheless, probably faster than baling it and then me coming with the skid steer, loading them all up and then depositing them into the hayloft. We've had a bit of fun trying to line up the forage wagon with the dropping point here, because it is a little bit tight. Yeah, and I've done that twice now, running over the hay pickup, but never mind, it's fairly robust. But yeah, it is a little bit tight around here. I thought there was a good amount of space, but I might look to move the silo back further into the trees. We'll see how we get on in the future. But we can deposit our hay in here, and whilst that's doing so, we can take a little look at how much we've got, because we should have a fairly good amount. There we go, 81,222 litres. That is pretty good going, and that is purely from the large bales and what we've just forage wagoned. We of course have a small shed opposite the sheep pen, which is full, or near enough full, of the conventional bales, which are all hay as well. So we really do have quite a lot of hay stocks. So I'm thinking, yeah, this year's definitely covered, and probably next year as well is covered for hay, providing we don't grow too much on the animal front and they reproduce like rabbits. But yeah, that's pretty good. So we can park this up now. In fact, no, we can't park this up now, because we are going to move on to manure spreading field number 3, where we've just mowed, and that will make it to the secondary level of fertilization, where we can then drill the sorghum. And we're going to have 2 sorghum fields, and sorghum grows pretty fast, so that'll be ready sort of autumn time, and we can harvest it, and that'll give us a good amount of horse and chicken feed for the year. Now, I did activate the French dovecote because there was about 13,000 litres of straw left in there, so should be able to muster up a full trailer of manure. There we go, that's filled up nicely, 15,000 litres, and we can head over and make a start. Start from this side and switch on, and we'll do the manure sweep and get this all spread across the field. And there we go, that's all manure spread, and the rows worked out quite nicely there, which was good. And yes, turned our mowed grass field into a nice bed for us to drill a next crop, and that's going to be sorghum. So we'll get the manure spreader parked up, grab the seed drill, and that'll be the last job of the day. But of course, probably in June we're going to have the first growth stage of our sorghum, and we'll have to weed it again, and I'll then probably take the opportunity to weed the bits that we couldn't quite get in field number 3. And then of course we've got sorghum in 2 separate fields growing at different rates, so we might have to wait for field number 3. Well, we'll have to wait for field number 4 to be ready before we potentially harvest field 3 and 4 together. So hopefully field 3 doesn't get too over matured when it's time to harvest. Right, seed drill is what we want, and yeah, we're not going to be using any sort of fertilizer, because if we inspect the map, hopefully we've got the secondary level of fertilizer. Yes, so field number 3 has got the secondary level of fertilizer, so has field 4 and bare field, so that's pretty good. Already got plenty seed and fertilizer in here, so we don't need to refill it. We can just get straight over to the field and set to work. Lift up, and last section done, and you'll notice it has started raining yet again. We've had quite a wet spring on the homestead so far this year. I'm hoping we're going to have a drier summer, but then I guess the rain is pretty good for all of our crops, our oat field and our 2 sorghum fields, and the rain earlier was probably very useful for all of the grass and hay that we've been able to collect up this year. So that's pretty handy. Right, we'll get the seeder dropped off, and then I think the last job is I just want to use our brand new, well, it's not brand new, we did find it. It was a bit of a abandoned junk find, but we've managed to restore it to a usable condition. Our little John Deere all-terrain vehicle, although I think it's called an AMT, not a ATV. And here it is, our little AMT. Don't quite know what AMT stands for, but let me know if you know. And I think we'll see about giving some hay from our new hay shed to some of our animals. Now this pickup at the back is not going to take a lot, but just using it for practice sake. So let's see if we can load this in here. There we go, 850 litres we can take in the back. We'll spin round and go and drop it in one of the animal paddocks. I think I've seen that the sheep need a little top up, so we can just swing around here, back up, and get it unloaded in there. There we go. That's pretty handy. Oh, they've taken all of that. And of course we have our shed here with all our conventional bales, and that's pretty good. We can obviously sling bales in, but it's nice to have the hay storage shed. We'll start to use that more for bigger hay collection. We can just drop this little AMT in under here and keep it a little bit dry. So we managed to weed in the most part our sorghum in field 4, and we've got the grass mown, tedded, collected up and stored in our new hay barn from field number 3, and then we got sorghum drilled in there as well, and it's nicely manure spread, so good level of fertilization. One question I've got in my head is what should we do about our silage bunker. Of course we're not using this silage particularly quickly, and I feel like this pit is in the way, so I'm wondering whether to get some sort of silage storing shed and we can put it to one side and get it out of the way, but let me know your thoughts on that. Right, it's really coming down now. Had enough of this rain. We've had so much of it this spring. But that is it for today. It's been a busy one, but I hope you have enjoyed watching. If you have, remember to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Got any tips, tricks or things you'd like me to do, then feel free to leave a comment. I'm going to get a cuppa, and I hope to see you again next time on The Frontier Farmer. And until then, catch you later. Cheers all. Bye bye.